Right, so your big pipe, the two pipes coming from the fuel tank. Obviously there's a join down there, but still we've got a smaller one and a larger one. But the larger one, this one, that I'm wiggling here, goes up there. There is actually like a P-clip, which you just basically have to snap that off. It's held on with a 13mm nut. But basically that ends here, you see. So this is the one that goes onto your water separator jobby, this thingy, whatever it's called. What's it called? Fucking thing. Right, this little pipe here is just the return, so any unspent fuel basically goes back to the tank. So there's, again, it's one of these little push fittings. I'm probably going to keep this section upwards. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the O-ring in this. It's not critical, I don't think, for the fuel delivery side. Obviously you want to make sure it's not leaking, so you're not A, leaking fuel, and B, I'm not sure if it affects the fuel pressures and things like that. So I'm going to put a new O-ring in there, and then probably need to keep, well, I don't know how else to connect the return basically onto this flexi pipe here. So I'm probably going to have to keep maybe this bottom pipe here, this return bit. But anyway, yeah, I'll get the joint off down there. We'll see if we can get when we get the new pipe made up, if we can get something made up that we can attach the pipe like that to. I have no idea how that's going to work. So I'll quickly show you what the fuel lines look like. A little bit scabby, to say the least. The main fuel line, it's got quite a lot of rust on it, surface rust. So it gives you an idea that, I mean, it might be a fine inside, but I know sometimes they do clog up inside. I've seen other people's pictures of them, but again, maybe another reason why you do at some point want to swap these, you know, it's a failure point, isn't it? There's obviously joints in them as well. There's a couple of joints down. I think there's 2 joints in them. Let's have a look when I get them off. But it's obviously got joints and potential for leaks, air leaks, air leaking into the system, affecting the pressure and all sorts of things. So I think I wasn't going to change these. I was like, why is everyone bloody changing these? They're solid, you know, it's just the push fits. Having looked at them, I can kind of see why people do change them now. So I shall be changing mine. These are the clips, that the clamps, if you can see. I've left one of them on here just to support it, but that's very loose. Right, I think I'm going to get the rest of this fuel lines off. We'll get these off, and then we can take them to a hydraulic place and get him to make up some more for me. I think we're going to make some new full length pipes. Right, so I'm underneath the truck now, orientation wise. Front left wheel, front right wheel. And we've got fuel lines, these two here. This thicker one will be the flow, and the thinner one will be the return. But as you can see on mine, these are leaking quite badly anyway. So the smaller one is 19mm on that. And this one's 22mm. Okay, this one's 22mm. And you can see mine actually spinning now. Now what happens actually, you see that spinning there. What happens is these kind of, yeah, you can spin it off, but all the pipe twists. So yeah, if you're swapping these for the hydraulic ones, which is probably what everyone seems to recommend, you're probably going to bugger these up. You know what I did? I soaked them in for a couple of hours in WD, just doused them in WD. I held them with the pump pliers there while I turned this with a spanner. It hasn't really marked them, so if you weren't swapping your lines, that's probably one way of doing it. But this one, obviously, that's made a bit of a squish in it. Right, once they're off about that much, you can just pull the rest of them off. Right, there we go. Right, so that is your fuel lines. This is the return line, the smaller one, which has got this flexi end on it, and then this big one here is the main one that goes from your tank to your sedimenter. Right, so what I'm going to do on mine, because this is this push fit that fits into, well, it's this flexi pipe here. I'll just show you where it goes into. It goes into that thing there, which is just this thin pipe. So I'm not really sure how to connect that thing up to, well, anyway. So I'm probably going to keep this one joint in it. But obviously what it means is just had to disconnect it from solid fuel line. So this is a 17mm, that's a 19mm. Probably need something quite long to get a bit of torque on it, because that is quite tight. So basically I'm going to get my new fuel line made up to here, and then yeah, I'm going to change the o-ring in this. I'm going to put this plastic pipe, this little bit back on, so the only bit of push fit on my system. And I won't care about it because I don't care about it because it's the return to the tank, so it's not as critical, although you don't want to get air in it. I appreciate that. You don't want to get any air leaks in it still. But B, I'm going to swap the o-rings in here and at the other end, so be good as new anyway, just that little bit. So yeah, I need to get something made up tomorrow with a fitting for that. And yeah, get all these pipes made up tomorrow, I think. Can't wait. I've got some fuel line made up now. This is a long fuel line to replace those bits of shit I've took off, the steel pipes. So the steel pipes are no more. And we'll start getting these bad boys all hooked up. Right, this is the new piece of hydraulic hose. I've actually had this fitted before to the old sedimenter before I swapped it for the calf fuel filter and swapped this. So this has been on before. It was a little bit hard to get on. Just one tip for you. I think you can get swivels of these, but this was made to a set angle. But say getting swivels might be better, or getting a one with a joint on, so it might prove better, because this, I know it's going to be a bugger to get on because the angle's not quite right. This fitting, it's a 3/4 inch JIC or jig fitting. So if you are ordering them, that's what you need, 3/4 inch jig if you're going on to the standard this standard thing there that comes off it. So because when I had this fuel line here made up, the angle wasn't exactly right, I've had to pull the filter off. In your case you probably have a sedimenter on here, but same thing, just to get it on, like I said, because the elbow wasn't quite the right angle. So you'll fight this if you don't just take this off. So it's easier just take it off if it's not quite right, or just get these pipes made up get them from Matthew Payne. They'll be perfect. Like I say, I had to try and match up the angle when I got mine done, and I didn't get sort of adjustable angles on it. You can get the ones with swivel angles. I didn't, so this is why I'm fighting it. So yeah, just be careful. Make sure the angle of these things is spot on. Otherwise, you're gonna have to do little workarounds like this. Excuse the mess. I'm just going to show you two different fuel lines I've made up. This is a solid one, as in it doesn't swivel, which means you've got to get the angle exactly right with that one. Whereas this one does swivel, because it's effectively got a joint in it. It's got a straight couple with an elbow, so you can put that one down in a minute. So with this one, if your angle's not quite right, you can rotate it, yeah. So it is an extra joint, I know that, and we're obviously part of the reason for doing this is to minimise the number of joints, but it's a good joint, right? It's not got O-rings and crap like that in it. So yeah, I'll probably recommend, if you're going to do this and you're not quite sure the angle, if you don't measure it properly or you don't take the old part, it's a bit unclear, just get one made up like this. You might find in there getting your spanners on to tighten these things up is a bit restrictive, so all I've done here, just pulled it out to the top so I can get to it, get my spanners on, get this thing nipped up, as you can see, get that nipped up. So 19mm on there, and I think 23 or something like that on there, so I'm just using an adjustable for that. Yeah, so might find it easy to get a bit more access, get them tightened up on that end, outside of the small confines of that area. Then you can slot it back in. Okay, this is probably a good point to mention the big cock up I had this week with my fuel lines. So I went for the MOT, drove all the way there, 5-6 miles to the MOT centre from home. No problem at all. Went through the test lane in the MOT, big problems, because partway through the test it cut out
due to fuel starvation, and I lost my test. They had to abandon the MOT. Okay, so big problem. And so I had to basically drain the fuel, bleed the fuel system whilst it was on the MOT lane. So A, quite embarrassing, and B, my own fault really, because clearly I didn't check that the fuel lines were properly tightened. I thought I had. I even did a low pressure test. I pressurised a tank with a blow up bed pump, and so I did actually spot one fuel leak on one of the joints that wasn't nipped up, so that was fine. But clearly there was other ones that I hadn't quite spotted. I did, annoyingly, in a bit of footage I'll show when I do the fuel sedimenter swap out, there was some bubbles in there, and air bubbles I saw popping up when the engine was running, and I should have really noticed that and paid more attention, because that was a telltale sign that obviously air was getting into the system. So yeah, expensive mistake this week, and completely my fault. So I think the lesson here is two things. Probably one, don't do work on your truck just before an MOT. If it's not broken, don't fix it, at least not just before an MOT. And secondly, I would say just in terms of tightening these things up, you can't get like a torque wrench in or anything like that. But what you can do is probably nip them up as tight as you dare. So what I mean by that is, tighten them up as much as you think you can do, and then give it another quarter turn. And I also did on mine put thread locker on, like hydraulic thread locker, Loctite, but it's still, clearly vibrated loose. It was tight enough when I got it all bled up and ran it, but with the engine running on the road trip, it clearly vibrated it loose. So, excuse me, you definitely need to make sure these damn things are tightened up, and just check it. Once it's running, if you get any sense that it's struggling to start, it's probably because it's drawing air in. If you look at your lift pump, try and pump it manually, and it feels like, if it's not on the cam, I should say, because if it's on the cam, it will feel like it's not pumping. But just crank it over a little bit so it's off the cam. But if you start pumping manually your lift pump, and it feels like there's sort of no resistance and it's not pressurizing, the likelihood is you've got air in the system somewhere, or air's entering the system, because you've not got a vacuum essentially from your fuel lines, from your fuel tank to your sediments run onto your lift pump. So so that was my lesson this week, an expensive lesson, but probably good at this point to know that, and hopefully it will help you guys not make the same mistake.
So same sort of thing at the lift pump end. Just get yourself 2 spanners. This is the first fuel line we've got on now. This is the one that comes from the sedimenter, or in my case the cav filter, which I've replaced, coming down into the lift pump. This is the fuel line I've got. It's a 3/8 inch. That's what it is. You can see that's the new one. This is the one I had made up before. This was a slightly bigger one. This was a 1/2 inch one, but something like that will do basically. You don't want to have it too small to restrict your flow. That's the main thing. Well, we're going to start getting this fuel line on first. This is the fuel line that goes to the sedimenter from the fuel tank. So I'm going to start at the sedimenter end, or in my case the new fuel filter, the cat filter, and we're going to route it back down, hopefully the same way we took it out, and we'll run it from there back underneath the truck to the fuel tank. So let's start with the elbow end. One end ends the elbow, the other side's a straight fitting straight onto the tank. Critical importance: keep these covers in place when you're running it. You don't want crap going in your fuel lines, your brand new fuel lines. So you're going to get these made up yourself. It's probably not a bad idea to lay it with the covers on so we don't get shit in it, but lay it next to the old solid steel fuel line just to check it's roughly the right length. The benefit of this, obviously, I've got less joints. I've got a joint in there, the old steel one. I've got one less joint. So and obviously not these old plastic push fittings, or rubber O-rings in there. We don't need those anymore. We've got it straight onto a hydraulic fitting. So right, let's stop pissing around, let's get this fitted. Right, I'm going to start fitting it at the sedimenter end. This is the inlet port of the sedimenter, because obviously this line is the one that's going to, or from I should say, the fuel tank. So this is your main feed in. Just routed it in there. It comes kind of down underneath there, and then it's going to shoot off down underneath. So obviously this length down here, I'm going to feed it through. Just going to get this end on first, and then we'll start feeding that through. We'll try and follow the old route of where the old pipe went to. So obviously you need to get in here. In my case I've got a 19mm spanner and an adjustable, but just locking it off on that end, which is now done. Alright, so that one's done. Right, we'll go and route it through now and get it back to the tank. Right, so what we've got here is a little bit of push fit pipe. This is the fitting that's going to go onto the new hydraulic hose I've made. There's this little push fit pipe here, or this little flexi pipe, that has to basically just connect to the leak off pipe there. You can see that brass fitting there is a push fit. So all I'm doing is going to swap the O-ring. I've got another video on how to swap O-ring, so I'm not going to throw it again, but basically that's the old one, that's the new one. The new one's this one, the BS1110. So watch my other videos how to do this, but yeah, it's quite straightforward. I'm going to put that in now. So that fitting that goes on the leak off pipe there, this pipe that comes down there, I've just changed the fitting on the O-rings in that fitting as well, so shouldn't be any leaks from that part. Right, I have to be quick now because I've got probably about another half hour before the next shower. Right, so lift pump's on, fuel lines are connected. I did connect all the fuel lines down to the tank. I didn't show you me clipping them on, but basically, as you can see, they're fitted at each end there, and then I obviously fitted the front, fitted the back, and all I've done is just route it through past the old route and then just clip them on. For now, they're just cable tied temporarily until I can figure a better solution. But anyway, yeah, that's the fuel lines done.